Hi, it's Luda here. Join me to listen, learn and reflect. In Conversation with Mothers Producers is a series of interviews with successful producers. All of them are mothers who combine their family commitments with the producing role. I would love to hear their stories about personal and professional journey and ask for advice for any emerging producers or other specialists who are planning to combine their parenthood and career.
I have 3 children. My eldest is Aurora, she's 18. My middle is Sage, she's 16. And my youngest is Zan, my son, he's 10. So I fell pregnant with Aurora the week I got the biggest job of my career at that time. So I was 27 and I just had been appointed to the state manager of the Women's Domestic Violence Court Assistance Program, which at the time was probably the most senior role within the domestic violence policy sphere in New South Wales. And I fell pregnant the same week. I remember, feeling very anxious about telling my new manager, my new boss, that I know I only just started like 3 months ago, but I'm pregnant. And with Sage, I was 30 and I was still doing that job at Legal Aid and I was working full time because I went back to work only after 4 months with Aurora and went back to work full time over 4 days, which was just crazy because I think it was such a big job. It needed to be done full time. And also I felt like I had to prove myself because I literally fallen pregnant the same week that I started the job. With Zan, I was 35 and I remember I was working at the ATO in community education and myself and 2 other colleagues, we all were pregnant around the same time. It was very funny. I managed to keep working at Legal Aid and had them both. And then I actually got a secondment to another government agency in a higher role, in a policy role. And while I was there, because Sage, my second child, was born with a myriad of health problems, I was sort of in and out of hospital. And at that time in my life, I kind of only allowed myself to go to hospital with her or to go to work. It was a very intense time. And so I asked to finish up at the secondment and go back to my job at Legal Aid. And then she just kept getting sicker and sicker. And I just realised I couldn't continue to parent her, be in hospital and do this big job working in domestic violence. It's a big program. I took my long service leave from there and then literally Googled jobs, government, Hurstville, found my job in community education at the ATO, which was at the top of my street. And worked there. And I remember they rang me to offer me the job and I was like, I heard it was in the hospital with Sage and I was on my way home in a taxi to get a change of clothes. I was like, I can't take this job. I have this child. Like, don't worry about it. We'll work around it. And so I worked there for 7 years until I got made redundant and then, was able to crawl my way back up into my career. As mothers, we make the changes. I wanted to show my children a good example and also studied at university for a long time. I see it as an investment in myself that I want to make it work for me. And I think I can be a better mother when I'm productive. And I think it's only in the last, I'm going to get teary. The last few years I've realised that, and it's been working at bus stop that's allowed me to do that, to be more available for them. Because in those early days of parenting and working, I just worked so many hours and worked away from home and travelling that I missed so much.
Hey, Tracey, I understand you because I have just came back from the production and we were 6 days with night shoots and I haven't seen my child for 3 days in a row. It was the first time. And I'm nearly crying because I feel for you so much.
Yeah, it's really hard because the film industry, as you know, you work stupid hours and you do so much. But working at bus stops, the first job where we always worked from home even before COVID, I'm able to do that pick up and drop off. Not some days I can't because I've got meetings or I'm away, but I'm around more. Whereas other jobs that I've had that require you to be in an office or to travel. It was just very hard. I had Aurora. I had 4 months off, and then I worked full time over 4 days, and I was in the city at 7:30 in the morning. So leaving her, the two of us, we would leave home at stupid o'clock, and I would drop her to my mum's, race like a crazy person to get back to the station, to get into the city, to be at my desk at 7:30. And, I feel like as mothers, we just overcompensate our work to prove to our bosses and everyone that I can do this, I'm doing a really good job. And I feel like we have to work harder. And I think back to going to work when the kids were sick, because you still have to be in the office. And I remember once I got my mum to mind Zahn because he was really unwell, and I went to work, and then my mum caught the virus of Zahn, and then she ended up in hospital, and he was really sick, and I feel really bad. And even him starting school, I had to get a friend to pick him up on his second day at school because I just had started my job at Screen New South Wales, and my boss there was a mum as well, and she was really lovely, and she let me have the day off when he started because she wouldn't be on the first day. But yeah, it's very hard to juggle it all. And I see now, I'm grateful that I was around for Aurora doing her HSC, because I feel like our children need us more when they're teenagers, around that emotional support. And so I was able to do that. It was a crazy time because she was doing a HSC and I was producing 6 films in 5 weeks. So that was just insane, but we did it. But I was around more. Yeah. As a producer, connecting to all of the crew, explaining to them their role on set. We are here to make a film, but primary focus on this filmmaking experience is the experience of the students to put into practice their learning in the classroom, and to do that in a kind and considered way. We are working alongside and mentoring, supporting people with intellectual disability. We look at nuances around overstimulation, how they're feeling with their sensory, being on set can be quite intimidating. Practicing very much around respect, and making sure that inclusion is in every aspect of that production on set. And so that we're, as the producer and the hirer of the crew, the bringing on the crew to make sure that they're great filmmakers, but they're also kind and respectful. And then on the practical side, as the producer, I look at things like the accessibility of the location that we're filming in, the accessibility of where everyone's going to eat lunch, what are the needs of the students, and explaining information about call sheets and who needs to be where and all of that sort of stuff. I actually got into the film industry pretty much because of my daughter Sage. So she did acting and modeling for a long time. And so through them, I got to do a parenting TV show with the girls when they were very young, which explored things around parenting and motherhood. And then that was a little bit of a taste of, I like this industry. And then taking Sage along to auditions and supervising her on set, and Zahn as well, I got to know more about how the industry works. And that was a really great segue for me to get that role in policy at Screen New South Wales, because I had experience in the industry, sometimes me appearing on screen as a mum, or supervising the children and working out how does this industry work, what is in it. But I definitely involve them in bus stop films, like take them along to screening events. They help, when we shot a film close by here at the beginning of the year, I took the girls with me to help clean the location and set things up. Aurora helped me write image descriptions for our inclusive filmmaking toolkit for low vision people. So they're definitely part of the experience. Bring them along to Sage actually acted in one of our films this year as well. There was a role, and it was very funny because I read the role and it was for the popular girl, and I was like, this would be perfect for Sage. But I didn't want to put her forward for nepotism. And the director said, can we have Sage for this role? I was like, yeah, sure. I thought about her, but I wanted you to say it. So definitely involve the children in all of what I want them to see, what I do, what makes me work all these long hours. Before I worked in film, did I watch the credits at the end of the movie? Not really. Now I always watch the credits at the end of the movie, and it's a bit like, when I see my name there, and then I see the students as well. That's what keeps me motivated. is seeing these amazing young adults achieving and doing wonderful things because of the pathways that I've opened for them with our filmmaking and our film school. That gets me motivated. And, you know, my kids, I do it for them. Money isn't everything, but when you don't have money, the stress that it adds to your life is really challenging. And I was the kid from the poor family that didn't have the right uniform and didn't get to go on the excursions or have parties or whatever. And I never wanted that for my children. My children don't live in the lap of luxury, but they have everything that they need and everything that they need to feel comfortable, to fit in, and great opportunities. And that's what keeps me motivated.
Is there any way of your particular way of juggling?
So how I work, and this is the beauty of working for a progressive place like Bus Stop Films, is that I work from home and I just fit my life around my work and my work around my life. So I spread my work life over 7 days a week, and that's how I juggle. I'm getting better at saying no to stuff too, because like I'm like wearing so many hats, and I was like, my daughter was like, Mom, you promised me during the HSC you would not take on any more projects, you would not go away. And so I had to I'm getting better at asking for help. Like we just did 6 films in 5 weeks. It was huge. It was massive. Bringing the parts together makes the juggle easy. I think when you have to keep them separate and you have to work like you're not a mum and then parent like you don't have a job, that's when it's really hard, you know. And I have worked like that before, where I've had to pretend like I don't have children basically and just work ridiculous hours and do things. You know, I remember being at Legal Aid and going to point to something at my boss's desk and breast milk running down my arm and dripping because, you know, I'm trying to breastfeed and work and, you just do stupid things and you miss out on so much when you're forced to keep them separate. The beauty of COVID has shown that we're all, you know, we're working from home and we've got kids and it's messy and it's okay.
Are there any skills that you learn from being a mother and you can use it in your producing role? And the opposite?
Absolutely. I think mothers are natural producers. It's just the coordination and the delegating and the arranging and the organising and knowing where everyone's got to be that you need to do as a producer. I do that as a parent. I'm like, that kid's got that appointment. They've got library today. They need to be there. Like, you know, it's all of that organisational. It's very funny. My manager, who was a working mum as well, I remember they rang to do my reference check and she's like, do you really want this job at Screen New South Wales? I was like, yeah. And she goes, she'd heard me on the phone talking to the kids because they'd rang me at work. One of them had trodden in dog poo in the morning with their school shoes. And I was like, right, get that off, rinse it under the tap, do this. And she said she gave a reference based on my ability to manage remotely this particular, you know, this really awful scenario at home. And she's like, this woman can handle anything. You know, she's a multitasker. It helps us as a producer to be able to multitask when you're on a production and you're trying to manage cast, manage crew, get everyone fed, do COVID safety, make sure that, you know, contracts are signed and all of that stuff. It's like, you know, motherhood with 3 kids when you're working full time is like living on a variable call sheet all the time where everyone's got to be where they've got to be. I always say my hints and tips for this industry: be kind and make friends with people, because kindness, I think, will get you anywhere. I always just believe being kind is really critical to everything. And I always say make friends with everyone, because you never know, the most obscure friend that you make, one day you're going to need that person, or you're going to have a question and they're going to be able to answer it, or you have a role and they're going to fulfill it. And I always say, like, I collect people. And as a producer, you know, we're coordinating different projects and we need all the different people to do all the different roles. And if you've got a really diverse network of people in your sphere, it's easy to feel them. So yeah, be kind and make friends. And say yes and then make it up as you go along.
Давай.